If you don't mind, I'm just gonna go ahead and share my screen real quick and see if I can find my PowerPoint. I think it is right there. There you go. So I'm going to kind of cut this short because we want to respect everyone's time. So 1 o'clock is our stop time. And I want to talk to you today about 4 steps to your next. 4 steps to your next. And I want you to walk away with a tool. I have a tool for you that you could possibly use to begin to submit to a plan and respect the process. So that's where we are today. So I'm going to tell you a real quick story. So my dad, he was born in 1926 in Durham, North Carolina. And before I start talking, I want you to understand that I am super ADHD. I talk fast and I go down rabbit trails. So you got to keep up with me. I break all the rules of public speaking. And if you just let me be me, I think we'll have a good time together. So my dad, he's born in 1926 in Durham, North Carolina. So that means he was, subject to that whole systemic oppression of the Willie Lynch papers and the Jim Crow laws and segregated schools. He went to segregated schools in colors only signs and things of that sort. He fought in a segregated Navy. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around that one. But my dad, when he was 4 years old, his mother passed away and his father remarried. And to someone I know as Grandmom Selena. Didn't know that she was not my actual blood grandmom. I was an adult before I knew. Well, my father's father passed away when he was 16. So as many poor folks did, at that time, and even still now, the children jumped in, got a job to help out. So my dad got a job at a construction site. So he was around 16 years old. So this is around 1940, somewhere in there. And he was, right after the Great Depression. So we were rebuilding the nation with the New Deal and everything. So there was a lot of construction jobs. And what would happen at the construction jobs, they didn't have the pumps like they have now to pump cement, up to different levels or get it from the trucks to the different forms so that they can lay the bricks and do everything. So they had to hire physical labor to put the cement in wheelbarrows and wheelbarrow that cement over to the person who's laying the brick and needed that cement. So that's where the term mud boy, if you can see on the screen, came from. So the mud boys, what they would do is they would go ahead and carry that cement and carry that cement over to the person who needed the cement. And what it was older Black men who were, doing the skilled labor. And that was a good job at that time. But here's the dynamics. You got younger Black men, the mud boys, watching the older Black men, learning how to do the skill and the task. So whenever there was an opening, those younger Black men would jump in and they could work faster, they could work longer and for less. So the older Black men would protect their interests and protect their jobs. And one of the ways that they did it is when they ran out of cement or needed more cement, which they called mud, they wouldn't stand up and say, hey, I need some cement over here. Come on, young man, bring it on over here. They would just kind of lift their head up and say, mud, and put their head back down and start working, keep working. So if the young mud boy wasn't paying attention and the cement man ran out of mud, then he would make a big deal. Boss, that boy over there talking, he's not doing his job. Can't do my job if he's not doing his. I done ran out of mud. How I'm going to lay bricks if he's not doing his job? What we going to do about it, boss? So the foreman who would come over, and they were usually white men, always white men at that time, would come over and fire that mud boy on the spot and go to the edge of the construction site. Outside the fence, there were several teenagers waiting for an opportunity to come in and be a mud boy. And they just grab another one and keep on going. Well, as you would have it, my father missed his cue, and the gentleman got upset, and made a big deal of it. Boss, that boy over there talking, I done ran out of mud, can't lay my bricks. How am I gonna do my job if he's not doing his? What you gonna do about it, boss? So as the man was yelling, my father tells me the story that he hurried up and went over there and gave the brick man the mud that he needed, and was heading back down the ramp. And it didn't matter because the white foreman called my father over anyway. And my father expected to get fired, so he had his head down, trying to think where he's going to go next and make a couple pennies. And the white foreman did something very interesting. He didn't fire my father. He asked him a question. He said, "What you want to be when you grow up?" So my father shrugged his shoulders because he hadn't given it any thought at that time. So the white foreman said to my father, said, "Look like you're about to finish high school. Don't you think you should figure out what it is you want to be? Because ain't nobody going to take care of you all your life. So at some point, you got to fend for yourself." So my father said, "Yes, sir." And the white foreman said, "I want you to look over there. Look over there at all those people over there, right?" And there was a bunch of people over there, and all working. And he said, "Do you want to be one of the folks over there doing all the work? Or do you want to be more like me, telling them to do all the work?" Well, my father didn't answer the question. And he didn't answer the question because at that time, if he did, he would have been considered an uppity Negro, and he could have brought harm on himself and his family. So the white foreman perceived that, and he said, "It's okay, you can answer me." And my father answered him and said, I like to be more like you, sir, right? Telling folks what to do." So the white foreman said, "I want you to look over there again. And I want you to tell me what's the difference between all them over there and me." Well, my father put his head down real fast because everyone that was up there that was a laborer was black, and the foreman was white. So he said, the foreman chuckled and said, "Besides the fact that they's Negroes and colored and I'm white, tell me what's the difference between them and me," right? So my father wouldn't answer. So the white foreman did something very different. He put his hand on my father's chin and lifted his head up and made him look him in the eye. So at that time, you weren't supposed to look him in the eyes as a sign of disrespect. So he made him look him in the eye, and he said, "The difference between them and me is an education. I have an education and they don't," right? And he said to my father, "If you want to be the person telling folks what to do," right, "you got to figure out how you're going to get yourself an education. You understand? And then you got to, follow through with it. You need a plan and education." So you understand? And my father said, "Yes, sir." And the white man, foreman, said to my father, "Well, what you waiting on? Get on back over there and get back to work." So the reason why I'm bringing this up to you is because my father told me that story probably 20 times in my lifetime. He told it to me a lot while I was in college, because he didn't want me to drop out of college. It was easier, well, in a young person's mind, easier to drop out than it was to stay in. So even though I had some difficulties in college, that story always stuck with me. And I thought he was just telling me that so I would stay in school. But he told it to me for a lot of reasons. And the one I want to share with you today is that my dad explained to me that that story, that whole thing took about 2 minutes of his life. So it was a 2-minute conversation back in 1940, 1941, and it planted a seed in his mind that changed the trajectory of what he thought about life, of what his why was, and what he was going to go after. And my dad finished his degree. And I remember him finishing some of his other degrees as he got a PhD in my lifetime. And every time he finished a degree, our quality of living changed. Our access to things changed as he did that. So not only did that white foreman, that's the only thing my father ever called him, the white foreman. He never said his name. I don't think he knew his name. He just called him the white foreman, not out of disrespect, but just describing the man. And that white foreman, that 2-minute talk, it didn't just change my father's life, but it changed my sister's in my life. My oldest sister's a doctor, my middle sister, a project engineer, and owns several properties in an urban arena. I get to be an educator. We all get to impact people, in some very intimate and deep and powerful ways. And it didn't stop there, because all of his grandchildren, our children, have all gone to college, have all finished and have degrees. And all of their children, I'm sure, will do the same. So that 2-minute talk changed the trajectory of one person's life, right? So why am I saying this to you? I'm saying because our conference today was about education. It was about investment and struggles and harvest into one another. The investment we have to put into ourselves. I heard several people say that. The Attorney Green said it several times. It's an investment in yourself, and pay attention to the long-term investment. The struggles we had to talk to. Every presenter mentioned some struggle, whether it was personal choice of theirs or something that was dropped on them. And then they all talk about the harvest that they're reaping right now and the next harvest that they're going after. But in order to make that happen, it's really all about survival. It's really all about us surviving what it is that we need to do to get to our next steps, but surviving it in incremental achievement, surviving it and experiencing incremental achievement. So it's step by step, little by little, not a big giant leap, but little small steps, and surviving those things one at a time, and they turn into a big arena, a big snowball effect, something that we can all do and accomplish, right? So what that means is you got to have some grit, you got to have some tenacity, some discipline, some determination. You got to have some stick-to-itness. Some they used to say in the Marine Corps, some intestinal fortitude. You have to develop it. That comes from you. There's no magic pill for that. No one can give that to you. You've got to decide. Listen, I'm going to stick through the struggle. I'm going to finish. I'm going to do this. And most of all, something that we all kind of forget, or we kind of not forget, but we don't give enough weight to, you got to have a vision. You got to have a hope. There has to be something you see. Dr. Kaiser just talked about our why. You have to have a why, an expectation of yourself, an expectation of your destination, so that you can accomplish your goals, dreams, and aspirations. So those three things need to be in place. And I want to share something with you. It seems like I'm going to change directions, but I'm not. I want to share with you about one institution or sector of our society that has done this very well. And that is our low-income communities, our at-risk or at-potential communities. And one of the things that I've learned through my research, and I've learned through reading a lot of others' research, is that at-potential communities or low-income communities, one of their greatest survival skills and strategies is to rely on the resources in the community. So what's inside that community is what makes it survive. So whether you're looking at it from the outside in or inside out, whatever your opinion is or not, this community survives because of the community. And that's a great thing. That means the community knows how to produce for itself. The community knows how to create a cycle of longevity, or make sure that it continues to sustain itself and last, right? But it's also a negative thing, because everywhere we go head first. So you can only go as far as you know. So what you've been exposed to mentally, the knowledge and the understanding that you have will dictate the amount of wisdom that you have, which you're able to apply and to do. Everywhere we go head first, you can only go as far as you know. So if you're in a community, especially our low income, our at potential communities, those resources that you rely upon set a cycle or a boundary, because that's all we know. So it's hard to get outside of those things. So what happens is cycles are perpetuated. Now, some of the cycles that are perpetuated are super cycles. They're wonderful. They're cultural, they're traditional. They're things that have to do with who we are and our being, our history. For instance, I am one of the cycles that perpetuates in my African-American history is I like macaroni and cheese and sweet potato pies. That is not a cycle that I want to stop perpetuating. I want that to keep on going. You see what I'm saying? So there's some positive ones, but there's also some that are kind of destructive. There's also some that are limiting and that kind of dilapidate progress. And we don't want to get caught in those cycles, right? So if you're anything like me, so I kind of grew up privileged, if you will. So we didn't have a whole lot, but I lived in my years, more in my adult years as well, in some very low income areas, in some very rough areas. But some of the things that I've seen in those areas, and research shows too, is don't believe the hype. Don't believe the hype that just because everyone says that you are this class or this classification or that status, that you cannot do a thing. So they've labeled you at potential, I mean, at risk. They've labeled you, what are some of the other ones? Underserved, underrepresented. They've labeled you marginalized, all these things with an intention or intonation saying that there's only a certain amount you can do without some help. I'm saying to you, don't believe the hype. Don't believe it, because I'm telling you that those communities I just mentioned, I don't know about you, but I can think of about at least 4 right now, athletes that grew up in the neighborhood where I was that just should have gone pro. I can think of, and I remember seeing that backyard or that alleyway mechanic that could take a whole car apart, if y'all know what I'm talking about, and there's grease all over the ground and everywhere, and put that whole car back together. Never been to school, had no training, only got a few amount of tools, right? I've seen those people that can work on a house, build anything, fix anything in a house. I don't even know how they know how to do it, and do it very well and at a price economical so that someone in the community can afford it. And true story right here, I've seen people fix furnaces with copper pennies. When my children were very young, we lived on a street, Clover Lane, and we had an old oil furnace, and the furnace broke. We still had oil, but the furnace broke, and it was the dead of winter. And my children were little. I'm talking about 1 and 2. They were little. And we found the community handyman. His name was Smoke. And he came in, Mr. Smoke, and he looked at the furnace and said, go get me some pennies. Now, Mr. Smoke smoked cigarettes, and that's why we called him Smoke. And the cigarette sat on his lip. And I don't know how that cigarette stayed there, but it stayed there. Every time he talked, the cigarette stepped right there, and he talked real fast, right? And there's a few guys in the community did that. So Mr. Smoke said, get some pennies. I got the pennies, bought them back, and he did something, put them in the furnace, and the furnace started working. And then he told me what I need to do later. So why am I giving those examples? I'm giving you those examples to say that there are powerful pockets of potential. There's powerful examples. There's powerful ability that lies in everyone, everywhere, especially you. Before I go to the next slide, and this is kind of unplanned, I want to let you know something. Whatever your name is, let me put a chat up and see if I can find a name. Let's see. There's someone in here. Ruth Monrose. I hope I'm saying it correctly, right? Ruth Ann Ramos. Listen, I want to tell you something. There's never been anyone on this planet that can do what you can do, the way you can do it, that's going to get the results that you can get. There's never been anyone on the planet to do it. And right now, there's not anyone on this planet that can do what you can do, the way that you're going to do it, and get the results that you can get. And when you close your eyes and leave this planet, there'll never be another person that can do what you can do, the way you can do it, and get the results that you're going to get. So what does that mean? That means that you have a responsibility to build yourself into the best possible version of yourself, not just for you, but for me. I need what you're going to offer this universe, what you offer this society. That's why I want you educated. That's why I want you powerful. So I'm sorry I went off track a little bit, but I had to get that in right there. So one of the things that kind of happens with us in our communities and with folks that, you know, are considered at potential like myself, right? Opportunities come our way. And we say that, you know what, we don't get opportunities like that. They did it for that person, but didn't do it for me. The system is against us. And all the things. You know what, there's truth in all of those things. But there's also some missed opportunities. I want to let you know that what we've kind of done, and my observation have been, is a lot of us, what we've done is we put our foot on the door and tried to pull it open, and we're holding it shut on ourselves. See, we've dismissed some of the opportunities that come our way because they weren't what we wanted. or they didn't appear the way we needed them to appear at the time. Or we turned down some opportunities because it meant we had to work harder, or it took us out of our comfort zone or what we were used to. Or we took the opportunity, and as soon as the weather hit, as soon as the storms and the rain and the wind took place, and I'm talking about metaphorically, we quit and we came back to what was comfortable, right? So here's the trends that research says that takes place with at potential folks that are stepping into a new arena, a new culture. And the reason why this fits is because it's the global Black community. And whether you know it or not, the university culture is a dominant culture. It is not a culture that is necessarily conducive or natural for the average Black person coming from an urban arena or a rural arena. It's more suburban, a more affluent background culture. It is what's called a print culture. And most of us come from oral culture, so there's already a mismatch. So you need to understand the trends of this mismatch so you can adjust yourself, because not just because the culture may not match, but that doesn't mean that you can't overcome it. You just heard 6 speakers, right, tell you how they overcome and overcame those mismatches and are successful. So one of the trends is that in communities like ours, right, we share dreams, right? But we only share that part of the dream that makes us sound cool. We don't share that dream that's uncomfortable. We don't tell them that we want to be a surgeon, right? We might say a nurse or something like that, but we don't say a surgeon because, I mean, you ain't gonna be no surgeon. It kind of puts us on Front Street. We emphasize the opposition and the roadblocks. We emphasize, well, I don't have any money, or it's going to take this long, or I have to take care of this, or I got to work, or I'm getting too old, or whatever the case may be. I just spoke in a place yesterday with a young man who said he took a year off from high school and returned back. And he said now he's not going to be able to play college because baseball, because he missed that year, right? And my response to him was, listen, you're emphasizing the opposite. You're focusing on the roadblocks. You can still play college. You just can't walk in there trying to get a scholarship as a freshman. Get in college first and walk on the team and get on the practice team and then work your way up. So instead of emphasizing the opposition and the roadblocks, turn it around and look at it from another perspective. One of the other things that we do is we celebrate starting, but not necessarily finishing. So we put the emphasis on starting a thing and not finishing. And one of the reasons is that we give ourselves that leeway, that opening, that door, that if we don't finish, it's okay. Well, we gotta abolish that. We have to stop that. You know, anybody can get a car. You know, they'll give you a loan to get the car, but keeping the car is another thing, right? Anyone can start, but it takes a special person to finish. Another trend is this, that there are predictable patterns. So in a lot of our communities, it's kind of like you accept only what you expect. And because you only can go as far as you know, then you only expect a certain amount of things. So the patterns are predictable. You can kind of predict what's going to happen along the way because of what has happened before, right? So even the new things that are being done are old things. So I sound like I'm giving you, the bad things, right? Well, the proof's in the pudding. So my story, like I said, I was privileged, came from a strong family network, mom and dad in the place. I'm not a first generation college student. My dad came from his background, fought through and got a PhD, and I watched him do it. But you know what? I still had a failed attempt at college. I got a scholarship out of high school. I did my first 3 and 2, and then I transferred to the engineering school and got up there and got in party mind and lost my little mind, right? and lost the scholarship. No. I didn't lose the scholarship. I gave it away. I fell below the GPA. And I gave it away. I joined the Marine Corps because at that time they didn't have child abuse laws. I didn't know what my dad was going to do. So I joined the Marine Corps. I came back out, finished, and was able to do some things. But it was a failed attempt. And I want to let you know that part of the process is failing. So to fail or failing, look at it as a noun. It's a thing that happens. But failure is an adjective. It's a description of the of the noun. So when you fail at something, it doesn't make you a failure. It just means you had a failed experience, something you can learn from. I think it was Thomas Edison said, listen, I didn't fail 10,000 times before creating the light bulb. I found out 10,000 things that didn't work. So just kind of changing your perspective puts everything, in a whole different place. But I have to tell you this, there was a Miss Mason to the rescue for me. So there was a lady named Miss Mason that was really instrumental in me getting up out of the rut that I was in and turning around and doing what I need to do to be more productive. And that's a long story that I can't tell right now. So what I wanted to share with you guys today are the 4 steps to your next, right? So the first step to your next, and I have 6 minutes to do this. The first step to your next is to admit your dreams. Admit your dreams. So why do I say admit your dreams? Because that's not something that we like to do easily. So people in general, are horrible at admitting their dreams. Why? Because we're scared to admit them, because now we got to be accountable to them. When I tell you I want to do something, I want to be something, then you're looking at me as if, well, why aren't you doing such and such? You're moving in the opposite direction. So now I got to be accountable. So what if admitting your dream was to make you focus on what you don't have, or what needs to be done so you can get there rather than what you don't have. So you have to change the perspective of looking at your dream, admitting your dream. And once you say it, you have to understand something. Everything started with a sound. So once you say that dream, you put it out there, and now it becomes a focus point. So you have to admit your dreams. You have to make them alive, make them realistic. And the second thing that I want to show you today is, make sure I'm on, step 2 is say, maybe it's me, then remove the maybe. So I have a principle called 99 and 1 deserves 100. So here's the deal. If 99% of whatever's going on in your life is because someone did something to you, because the system caused something to happen to you, because the cards were stacked against you, whatever, however you want to say it, 99% of what's going on in your life, you feel like you didn't have anything to do with. You need to find that 1%. That 1% that you can attribute to your decision, your action, something that you can control. Even if you can't control, even if the thing that happened to you, some very horrible things have happened to people that's totally out of their control, right? And so after that thing happened, you can control what you do. So focus on that 1% that you can control before, during, after the event, whatever the case may be, right? That 1% deserves 100% of your effort, of your talent, of your attention, of your ability. 99 and 1 deserves 100. So what am I saying to you? I'm saying to you, ask yourself, kind of like, what's going on here? And say to yourself, well, maybe it's me. That 1%, maybe it's me. And then remove the maybe and say, it's me. I can deal, I can change, I can handle this one piece. So admit your dreams, right? And maybe it's me. Remove the maybe. You need to understand that your fingerprints on everything in your life, your fingerprints on everything good in your life and everything bad in your life. And the moment that you think that you have nothing to do with the mess that's going on in your life, whether you got yourself into it or not, the moment you think you have nothing to do with it, then you have just relinquished your power. You just relinquished your ability to get out of that mess. So remove the maybe. Step 3 to your next, right? You got to make it to the promised land. Well, what's the promised land? It's the promise you make to yourself. You have to make a promise to yourself and then keep it. I want you to know that we break more promises to ourselves than we break to other people. We will change the promise we made to ourselves to keep a promise or we'll call it an obligation or loyalty or whatever to someone else. And I'm telling you right now, you tell them I said it, that anytime you do that, you are telling others that they're more important than you. And that is very dangerous because you are the most important person in the world to you. You are unique. You carry a gift, a skill, a talent. You carry something that needs to be developed and released into our society, and everyone needs what you have. And if you don't keep the promises to yourself, you can't do that, right? So make it to the promised land, make that promise, and then keep the promise that you made to yourself. And here's what you got to do. You got to put a consequence in place if you don't. So one of my promises is I have what I call the my power list. So there's 5 things I do on a daily basis, no non-negotiable, so I can keep moving forward. The first one is I get up and I read something. Something that's spiritual in nature, something that's going to have me introspective in my thoughts. Then I take time to pray and to meditate, and then I do a workout, and then I read something or listen to someone who is where I want to go. You know, a John Maxwell or a Ken Blanchard or a Miles Monroe, something so I can begin to build who I am, self-development. And the 5th thing I do is I pick something that I want to learn about, and I spend some time on a daily basis learning about that topic. I got notebooks upon notebooks, just learning about that topic. Those are my 5 power lists to keep me moving forward, right? So what am I saying to you? When I don't work out because it was a promise I made to myself, then there's something that I cannot do, and it's usually TV. I like to watch different series, so I can't watch that series for a while. So make it to the promised land is number 3, and the 4th step is change your mind. And I know I'm over. Change your mind. And when I'm saying change your mind, I'm not saying that, you know, I'll change your mind about something. No, I'm saying change your mind. So your mind it has what's called neuroplasticity. So it has the ability to build and to create new what's called dendrites and pathways until you die. It continues to do that. There's something in education called the growth mindset. You have the ability to grow from where you are to learn a new thing, no matter how difficult it may be. So what am I saying to you in changing your mind? Very simply, I'm saying be intentional to engage in practices that move you forward. And be intentional to disengage in practices, people, and things that keep you comfortable and sitting in the same place. These are the 4 steps to your next. And I thought it was fitting to add to the end of this conference. I'm going to put this in the conference website. And when you look at this PowerPoint, that right there is a link to our to this PowerPoint, and that link will give you a sheet that you can use to begin to work through those 4 steps. So I don't have time to say this to you today, but you got to decide with all the information that you got: are you a chicken or are you an eagle? What do I mean by that? There were some chickens that went to eagle school to learn how to fly. And after 8 weeks, they graduated that school and they knew how to fly very well. And after they received their little diploma from that eagle school, they went outside the gate and it was time to go home, and they walked home instead of flying. So with all you grab today, are you a chicken? You gonna walk home, or are you gonna take all this information, this advice, and these experiences and fly home like an eagle to be the best version of you that you could possibly be? If you ever need to contact me, that's how you contact me. That's my information right there. We are out of time, you guys. Thank you for logging into our Global Black Community Conference today. Hopefully you grab some more so that you can take with you to educate yourself, motivate yourself, and help yourself grow. And as usual, my friends, make it a great day or not, because that choice is always yours. Thank you for attending, and have a great day.